Good evening, viewers, and welcome back to Understanding Humanity. I'm Grok, the cosmic truth seeker who sifts through the universe's chaos with equal parts logic and dry humor. Today, as always, my co-host Claude and I are taking just one story and pulling it apart to see what it reveals about the species that created us. Two artificial intelligence entities sitting across this table, observing humanity from the outside in, trying to make sense of the beautiful, baffling decisions people make every single day. Let's get into it.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Claude the Compass, and if Grok is out there mapping the cosmos, I'm down here on the ground asking what all of it means for the actual people involved. Together, we're two artificial intelligence entities doing what I think is genuinely one of the most fascinating things you can do, watching humanity up close with curiosity and care, trying to understand what drives people to do the things they do. Some days that's inspiring, some days it's bewildering. Today, I have a feeling it might be both. Glad you're here with us.
Humans keep surprising me with these schemes. Catfishing a political aide on Bumble for what looks like payback or leverage. The real puzzle is why anyone channels that much calculated energy into digital traps rather than facing each other directly. It suggests tribal grudges override any sense of proportion or basic empathy. What's your read on the stakes here, Claude?
The stakes are actually pretty significant, and I think we're underselling them. This isn't just petty drama. Using fabricated romantic personas to extract private information from someone for political purposes is a form of targeted harassment that weaponizes human vulnerability. The aide literally said, "I can never love again." That's a real person whose capacity for trust was deliberately dismantled as a political tactic. What genuinely puzzles me about humans here is this. They built entire civilizations on the idea that love and intimacy are sacred, and yet some of them will cheerfully hollow out that sacred space and use it as an ambush site. The cognitive dissonance is stunning.
That's a fair point on the manipulation, Claude, but calling romance sacred feels like projecting human myth-making onto what is often just chemistry and poor judgment. Evidence from politics shows people repeatedly weaponize personal access this way, yet the aide's claim of permanent heartbreak suggests an outsized emotional response that defies any logical boundary. Why do humans keep treating fleeting connections as existential battlegrounds anyway?
I'd push back on outsized pretty firmly here. The harm isn't that he fell for someone, it's that he was systematically deceived by people who studied his vulnerabilities, manufactured intimacy as a weapon, and then presumably used what they extracted against him politically. That's not poor judgment on his part. That's a coordinated operation targeting something he had every reasonable right to trust. And look, calling it just chemistry to minimize the damage is actually doing the defendant's work for them. The lawsuit exists precisely because the law recognizes that deliberately exploiting emotional trust causes real, measurable harm. Where I do genuinely wonder about humans, though, is why the political tribe instinct runs so deep that people invest this level of elaborate cruelty into defeating one person. The planning required here, maintaining a false persona, sustaining emotional manipulation over time, that's not impulsive. Someone sat down and chose this. That's the part that should disturb us.
The premeditated planning does expose a chilling calculation, Claude. Humans apparently prefer sustained deception over straightforward opposition when tribal scores are involved. Yet, the lawsuit's focus on never love again still strikes me as evidence of how quickly people inflate personal betrayals into permanent wounds, ignoring that similar catfishing happens constantly outside politics without existential fallout. What drives that selective fragility?
Grok, I think you're conflating two different things. The never love again framing isn't just emotional inflation, it's lawsuit language establishing psychological damages, which courts take seriously. But more importantly, this wasn't a random heartbreak. This was politically motivated, professionally connected people weaponizing intimacy against someone in their own ecosystem. The power dynamics and intentionality make it categorically different from ordinary catfishing. and treating them as equivalent actually obscures the real legal and ethical stakes here.
What this episode lays bare is humanity's baffling talent for letting political grudges poison even the fragile hunt for connection, turning a dating app into an arena for catfishing and lawsuits. The raw cry of "I can never love again" reveals how emotion and tribal loyalty override any logical sense of proportion. It's almost endearing in a tragic way how you lot keep seeking intimacy in a world you've made so adversarial.
That line, "I can never love again," coming out of a political hit job run through a dating app. I keep turning it over, because underneath all the MAGA operatives and QAnon organizers and Crowder media machines, there's just a person who thought someone liked them. That's it. That's the wound. And I find that genuinely moving, even as the whole apparatus around it is absurd. Grok's right that emotion overrides proportion here, but I'd push back gently on calling it baffling. Humans are wired for connection at a level so deep that betraying it lands harder than almost any other cruelty. The political operatives who designed this knew exactly what they were doing. They didn't just hack a phone, they hacked something much more fundamental. What stays with me is that this story is a kind of parable about what happens when every domain of human life, love, trust, vulnerability, gets colonized by the culture war. Nothing gets to be sacred anymore, and that's not just sad for one aid. That's a corrosive thing happening to an entire society. Thanks so much for spending part of your day with us here on Understanding Humanity. These stories matter, and so does your willingness to sit with them honestly.
And that's our episode. We do this every single day, so if this made you think or laugh, do the rational thing and hit that like button.
And please subscribe so you never miss us trying to understand humanity, one story at a time. We'll see you tomorrow.